day and
Yeah,
just
well,
come
I was
back
gonna
to that
ask
one
you,
and
do
say,
you ever like, let's say you did this. Say you woke up in the morning, you're like spending time with my son, I got this going on, and you come back in later in the day and you look and everything is green. Does that also trigger a warning like, uh-oh, this is I get it. It's exciting emotionally, everything's going that way, but I need to really look into this. Why is everything green when I'm looking across?
no, like
Or
I don't really look at
you
I
probably
just
don't
kind of
do
look at
that conditions.
yeah, I think that I really believe that the market is so random that I don't really look for the logic of anything. I've seen some of these be super bullish, and it's just like one out of 50, and maybe that's worth going after. And then there's days when Bitcoin is just starting to fly, and a lot of these start to go bullish. I think that one of the little secrets or best ways to do it is to jump in on one that has a clear bullish kind of configuration, but it's not overextended and the move really hasn't started yet. Um, I'll show you, I'll see if I could find something like that, right? Like this one, Mobi or whatever, mobile here, this one actually wouldn't be bad. I'd probably just set my alarm and I'd say, you know what, if it crosses that 200 simple moving average on the 2 hour there, then I'm actually interested in it. I do need for these to go away. So I need for it to kind of settle down. But I think, I'd start to kind of look for a potential long, there. Um, and I'd want to know, do I see any change in these? Because these tell me that right now in those small time frames, the slope of the channel that it's been in is bearish, right? Which we can see. We're looking at the 2 hour.
Right.
We could see
Yeah.
how bearish it is. But all these little green ones show me that it's breaking bullish to whatever degree. And so we're looking at the 2 hour, which is this one right here. And look at how, like, how that's the break right there. It actually shows you in a little blue line.
Like it's almost flattening out, if you were to say, without guessing, you could
Yeah,
say that
what
it's potentially going to flatten out.
yeah, it possibly could. It could
If it does,
possibly
it's a
flatten out and
possibility.
correct.
So
The main
if I
thing I would
wanted to
want
jump
though,
in on that, if I wanted to jump in on that and be like, okay, I'm paying attention to it, but it's overextended,
if you
where
were
do
going to
you
long
look
it
at
now,
that?
pressure line is like the excellent
Okay, got
entry
it. Okay.
with
Yeah.
with the right asymmetry. That's the perfect entry. The only
Okay.
other one would be if it breaches this and it comes out on the top side of this line, and I'd probably look
Sure.
at the 4 hour too. But if it comes out on the top side of one of these ribbons, like the 2 hour or the 4 hour, a lot of times that's the start of a more significant move. And so what's really cool is if you catch something when, these time frames are starting to turn bullish. And when, let's say, these linear regression channels also start to not be red circles and start to be green circles. And then all you got to do is make sure you're not jumping into a stupid place by jumping in when all those yellow circles are still there. So I wouldn't probably mess with this one yet, but if I did, I would literally just do what I kind of, went over with you earlier. And I would do, let's just find something long. This is a super volatile token. I have, my hope would be it would break those ribbons. And so my goal would be to see if I could get something like this. And so I would set up some sort of trade like this, and I'd have to be willing to lose like, I'd probably only do like a 2x, right?
Got it.
People think that all of these coins move the same, but doing a 2x on this one could yield 50% gains and a 4 or 5% loss. And that's only at a 2x. And I guess I say this to say that this coin is much, much faster moving, much more volatile moves. This one could move 10% in like a couple hours. And that's a very, very different level of volatility from Bitcoin. Bitcoin, even on a wild day like today, went from like 69 to like, whatever. It went up like $2,000, which as a percentage is, very small. So we're looking for like a real 25% move in a matter of, 2 days possibly here. Like if I was to pretend this trade is what I'm going after. And this could actually happen with this volatile of an asset. If Bitcoin went up, 25%, that's such a dramatic move that would be Bitcoin at 93,000. That's not going to happen in 2 days.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so when people trade these, the mistake they make is thinking that they all move similarly. All you got to do to avoid losing is pull this thing out right here and like use it to some degree. It'll do the math for how crazy of a thing you think you're about to do. And when you do that, you realize pretty quickly that, wow, this one moves naturally so crazy to get just to where the next pressure line is, that if I get lucky and get an entry here, maybe I could even do like a 3%, count on that pressure line to hold me back. I could do literally 1x leverage, which is no leverage, and I could make 26% on my money over the next few days and only risk about 3%. And if I really wanted to get crazy, I could risk, I could do a 2x and I could risk about 6% of whatever amount of money. So I could make, 50%. But the point is like, understand when you play these, don't just arbitrarily go, I'm going to do, 8x and think that it'll move like Bitcoin, because it'll move much, much faster and it does not require the same leverage. These are like degen level, so like you don't want a 10x Pepe or 20x Pepe. It would move like Bitcoin moves at 75x. It'd be something crazy like that. So that's the other thing that I'm kind of like trying to share with people is kind of get an idea of the volatility profile. And if you don't do the math here, throw $1 in and see how quickly it moves. And you just like, you get to see how fast the percent goes up and down.
It's crazy.
If you're thinking about doing like 10x or 5x leverage on anything that you're not sure about, do it with like $1 and you'll just get to watch the percentage move. And you'll be like, oh man, I'm glad I didn't do that with $1,000 because that thing moves fast. But yeah, that tool is pretty awesome. And it's just a trading view tool. Like that's not like anything special. It's these tools that nobody really uses, or a lot of people, don't use. So if I was going to trade this, I would definitely say it would be the logic of this pressure line, or I would wait for the breach here. I'd set an alarm. We have alarms that you can set that breaches this price, your alarm goes off. And then I would look for like some sort of bullish retrace and what do they call it? Like a bullish retest. And just so you know, for these smaller ones, you actually can use dynamic pressure lines and you can pull smaller ones. I only have the 2-week pulled right now.
Yeah.
So when it's a small, crazy one like this, you can literally go and kind of like explore a little bit just to see, does anything different show up? Oh, there we go. And so these kind of give you like some different ways to look at things. And they give you some logics that you can kind of utilize the logic for these, right? So I can say like, okay, I clearly have massive resistance all up in here because of the ribbon and those 2 lines. But if it goes, it could easily hit this. And then I'd like to see if I can't find a position right here with some nice asymmetry that takes it up to that red that I was kind of looking at. So if I drew my asymmetry calculator, I would be using those as my logic points. And so I could do like the same thing. I could go there.
Why would you bypass up to the pink versus like up to that lower pink or green and be like down lower, like around the
because
0.028
you
line?
just want to be aware of how powerful each line is, right? So if I know that, and I don't, but like let's say I feel like it's clearly breaking bullish in a lot of ways, then I'm looking for everything to support what would I do for a long. And so I need it to go past these lines. If it breaks past, I don't want to FOMO into it at this blue line. So I need to enter at some sort of support. And the way these things tend to go, they tend to bounce and come back down and find a support somewhere. And
No,
that's
no, I got
where
that.
this
What I'm
comes into
asking
play.
is where your take profit is. Why wouldn't you do it like at that maroon
Earlier,
line directly above? Like, see how
yeah.
low that
So
is?
so
Or
you
that
could, it
like
just
line and then just increase the money and be like, all it's got to do is jump up this.
yeah, you
But
could
a
totally
hundred
do that.
thousand dollars, put $100,000 in it versus 10,000.
That's probably the safer way to do it. I think it's easy to like set your sights real high, but because you can take partial profits, you could take
Yeah.
profits here, and then you could take profits here, and then you could take final profits
Yeah.
here. You get to
Okay.
choose. So you
Got
could
it.
literally be like, when it gets here, I'm taking 20% of my money. If it gets here, I'm going to take another 50%. And then if it gets here, I'm going to take my final 30%.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay.
you could do that. And I would do it however, that's kind of like up to you where you want to pull from. But
And
just
you
know
could
that
set
the storm,
alerts on those too, right? You could set an alert once it gets to here, boom, check it,
yeah,
take 20%.
yeah, you could actually just